Okay, today what we're going to take a look at is these parametric equations, and this is in your textbook. It is section 6.3, but the assignment is from our section 8.04. I know, they don't go together. Kind of stupid, huh? Anyway, we're going to look here, and I think you have some even numbered assignment questions, so we're going to look at some of the odd ones so that you can do the even ones on your own. Look at number 7. Number 7, the instructions say graph the parametric equations, and notice it gives you two different parametric equations. One is an x equation, one is a y equation, and they both contain the letter t, and that's the parameter. This is different than functional equations. Okay, and so what we're going to do, and then notice number 7 gives us a specified interval. It says we're going to use that. And then we're going to graph this using both of those sets of information. So this is different than what we normally do. So let's take a look of how to do this in our calculator, because really if you're going to do this, you're going to need to do it in your calculator. Okay, and it'll be a graphing calculator. So let me go over here to my handy dandy graphing calculator. Now I already went in there and I already completely cleared out the calculator. So what that means is anything I need to set up, I have to set up. Notice here on the see the mode button right next to the second, you click that, and usually what we do with that is we set between degrees and radians. That's only if we're doing functional equations. And if you'll notice on the fourth line down, it says FUNC. That's what we always have it set at, but we've never changed it before. We're going to move this over here to PAR for parametric equations. So I'm going to arrow down, see the arrow button here? I'm going to arrow down to FUNC line and shift over, go to the right, PAR for parametric, and hit enter. Okay, excuse me, I just did that. Now go to the y equals. Now remember the y equals always had y1, y2, y3, all the way down to y10. But notice what happens when we change that to parametric. I push the y equals, and now notice it's a y1, an x1, y1, and both of them have little t's there. The letter t is used in math to describe a parametric equation. T is the parameter. It's kind of like when you go to your phone and you're going to look up a map, and they want you to tell them where they ask you where you want to see. You put your zip code in. Well, your zip code doesn't actually show up on your map. The map actually uses some coordinates to find the map. That's kind of like what this is. You're going to put a t coordinate in, and it's going to end up with some xy stuff. Okay, so let's go back over here to our equations, and notice there it says x equals 3 minus t squared. Well, how are we going to put a t in? Well, remember the button here, the x t theta n button? We always use it for x, don't we? Well, notice though it has a t there. That button now is going to be a t button. We're not going to use the green buttons. Alright, so we're going to say, first of all, I'm going to say 3, let me see if I can get this whole thing. Okay, 3 minus, and I'm going to push the x t theta n, the t squared, right? Yeah, squared. Okay, now that is my equation. That was the x equation. Now the equation that it gives us for the y is y equals 2t. So I'm going to arrow down to the t, and I'm going to say 2, and then that x t theta n button again. Okay, now I've got those two equations in there. All right. Now what we're going to do, it says graph the equations using those parameters, or using that parameter interval. All right, let's graph it before we change any intervals. The way I graph is always using the trace because it gives us numbers. Notice if I push the graph button, all it gives us is the graph, but it doesn't give us any numbers shown. But if I push the trace button, it shows me the same graph, but it shows me numbers. Okay, notice what it shows me here. It shows me where this is where, see the flashing dot? This is where, if I put in t is 0, this is where it's going to show me this graph here, but we're right there. And it shows me that the x is 3, y is 0. Now that is this graph right here. Now, each of these all the way across, this is a 10, positive 10, negative 10, positive 10, negative 10. Okay? Now, notice what this says here, over here with our thing. It says we want this to be the minimum number for the t is going to be 0, and the maximum number for the t is going to be 10. What in the world is that talking about? Here's what it's talking about. If you'll notice the window. Now, the window we've set before sometimes, and it only has x's and y's. But I'm going to push on window, and notice now it has a t min, a t max, and a t step. The minimum number here for the t was 10. I mean, the maximum. The maximum number for t was 10. The minimum number for t was 0. So let's change those. All right, we already got up here the minimum was 0. Now we got to change that maximum to what? Yeah, to 10, right? Okay, so we're going to change that to 10. Sorry. Okay, change that to 10. I'm always going to use 0.1 for t-step. But basically what that does is that's telling us how many dots do you want to see for your graph. And it puts them real close together. So I'm going to put 0.1. Oh, sorry, moved it. All right, and then I'm going to, remember we said that was a 10 and 10 and 10 and 10. So we're going to leave all those 10s there. Now I'm going to hit the trace button again, okay? All right. So, oops, let's get it a little bit clearer. Can't get it too clear. I'm not sure why. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there you go. Now that's what it wanted. It wanted the 0 to 10 for the t in the window, and it wanted those equations. And that is the graph that it wants. Okay? So, you should be able to do number 8 or 10 real easily that way. But that's the way you set this calculator up to be able to work with parametric equations. Okay?